Hey everyone, it's Sevy and I'm back with another video. This time about C6 Bennett. I think C6 Bennett is pretty great, and here are several reasons why he might actually be good for your team too. A lot of people say don't make Bennett C6 because he might mess up your elemental combos. But here are some cases where Bennett C6 won't interfere with the combos and will actually benefit your team. Also, we'll go over some reasons why Bennett C6 won't be good for you depending on the teams you run. Reason number 1. If you don't have a Pyro DPS, or if you pulled Yanfei but don't plan on raising her, Bennett C6 is going to give you extra Pyro power. Bennett C6 makes his ult apply Pyro on polearm users, sword users, and claymore users, and gives everyone in his AoE a 15% Pyro damage buff. That is as good as a 2-piece Crimson Witch set. So it's kind of like making your DPS into a temporary Pyro character and giving them a 2-piece Crimson Witch set. Before Hu Tao and Yanfei, I didn't have a Pyro DPS, but I had a Zhongli that was built fairly well as a non-physical Geo sub DPS. While this can be trivial in the open world, it helped me a lot in my Spiral Abyss floor 9 and 10. Here, I mostly relied on Pyro supports because I didn't have a strong Electro character like Xingqiu or a well-built Electro support like Fischl. So turning Zhongli's normal attacks Pyro made it easier to break shields so I wouldn't have to rely on skill cooldowns or ultimate cooldowns. Now imagine this on characters whom you don't put physical damage bonus on. Xingqiu with his ult will give you Vaporize, a Cryo Rosaria will give you Melt, and Chi-Chi, if you didn't build her physical, will also give you some Melt with her E. And of course, Bennett himself, if you've built him to be a Pyro hitter, will benefit a lot from his C6. Also, Genshin Impact players have been noticing a change in the meta where we're leaning more towards shield meta and shield breaking meta, so being able to infuse elements into normal attacks can be really handy for breaking shields now of your opponents. Reason number 2. If you want your Pyro DPS to have more Pyro, then Bennett C6 is going to give them that. This is applicable for characters like Xiangling, Hu Tao, and Diluc. So if you already have a Pyro DPS and would be happy with even more Pyro application on normal attacks while your skill or ult is on cooldown, then C6 Bennett is the way to go. For example, Hu Tao's skill has a duration of 9 seconds while Bennett's ultimate lasts 12 seconds. That means there's 3 extra seconds where Hu Tao doesn't have her skill and Bennett's ulti is still up, assuming that you activated them at the same time. So that's basically 3 extra seconds of Hu Tao still applying Pyro with her normal attack even after her E finishes. Reason number 3 is that you'll get a lot of shield generation if you pair C6 Bennett with Geo characters. As you know, Geo can react with any other element, except Anemo, to crystallize into a shield. So, if you have a Pyro-infused character with Albedo's skill operating, normal attacks combined with Albedo's blossoms will pretty much ensure consistent Pyro shield generation. This can also happen with Zhongli, although it would have to be near his pillar to get the ticks. When I put down my C6 Bennett's ult with Zhongli on the field, he's always shielded and his meatball recharges like lightning. So those are the main situations where C6 Bennett will be great, and because a lot of team comps and element reactions rely on Pyro, I really don't see a problem with activating C6 Bennett in a majority of reaction-based team compositions. But here are several cases where C6 Bennett will not be good for your team. Case number 1 is if you run a superconduct or physical damage team. Now that MiHoYo is trying to buff superconduct and physical damage, especially with Eula coming out and the Spiral Abyss bonus, you kind of have to be more careful about that final constellation. If you use Bennett to typically buff your superconduct team's attack, C6ing him will mess up that combo. Instead of getting increased physical damage, you will probably end up with either Overload or Melt because his Pyro infusion overrides the physical damage. Also consider the characters that have their own elemental infusions, for example, Keqing. Keqing gets infused with Electro on her normal attacks for a short while after using her skill. Most Keqing builds rely on physical damage or electro damage, so in that case, it'll be weird putting her with C6 Bennett. But after the 1.6 developers notes came out, there was some mention about buffing the electro reactions including overload, so combining Electro Keqing with Bennett's C6 could have some benefits in the future. And you could also try building a Pyro Keqing just like some people build Cryo Keqing with Chongyun. Case number 2 is if you run an Electrocharge team. But depending on how you run the Electrocharge team, a Pyro infusion might not be so bad. When Hu Tao came out, a lot of Genshin content creators suggested using her to proc an Electrocharge into a Vaporizer Overload combo. That's not how I play her personally, but that potential only multiplies with Bennett C6, given that you use someone like Fischl, Child, or Mona to proc the Electrocharge. All in all, Bennett C6 isn't that bad and can actually be quite versatile. In the same way that people make cryo builds through Chongyun's elemental skill like Cryo Keqing and Melt Diluc, the same can be said about Bennett C6. So if you run some of the team comps I mentioned earlier, I highly suggest you activate that Bennett C6. I suppose just don't expect him to be as welcomed in co-op mode. But I've put my Bennett on C6 and haven't regretted it since. By the way everyone, I'd like you all to know that the winner of my first YouTube giveaway has been chosen. I chose through a random picker and they followed my instructions and have already claimed the prize. So thank you all for joining, and for future giveaways, be sure to join my Discord and follow my Twitch too. Links are in the description. So I hope you liked this video, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe if this helped you out. Only a whopping 2% of my viewers are actually subscribed to me, so please subscribe. Take care and I'll see you all soon.